In this video, I'm going to show you some of the basics of Apple Classroom 2.0. Apple Classroom is the app that allows you to see what other students are doing in your classroom, also to get them to different locations via Safari, or open up certain apps, or even send out other apps content like in Notes or Pages or Keynote or other apps as well. And so just going to show you the basics first, how to get students into your classroom. And the environment I'm going to show you real quick, this is an unmanaged environment. So the classes don't automatically show up. You create your own class, you add students. It's a little more flexible this way. That way, if you have students from other classes, you're able to add that in there as well. So that's the environment that I'm going to show you. My iPad over here on the right, this is going to be my teacher iPad, and I've got the app Apple Classroom downloaded and installed on my device. And so you can see I've added a few classes, and we're going to add another one here in a minute. My iPad over here on the left, this is going to be my student iPad. Notice I don't need Apple Classroom, so it doesn't exist. And I'm going to show you how students then will add their device to your class, and once they do, it's a one-time deal, and then you're ready to take off and go. If I go into settings here in my dock, a little gear icon, I'm going to tap on settings, and you can see that currently this is where Apple Classroom for the student will show up. This student has not joined any classes, so therefore Apple Classroom doesn't show up, and it shows up over here on the left-hand side underneath Bluetooth is where that will appear. And so I'm going to go back over here on my iPad on the right. So this is my teacher iPad. And again, I've just launched Apple Classroom. I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call this one my history class. And click on done. Of course, I can pick different colors. And notice currently in this class, I have no students. So I'm going to open up this class, and you can see in Apple Classroom, up here at the top, these are all the menu items of things that I can do with the class. Of course, I can end the class when I'm done. When you end the class, you drop back out. You can go open up another class. You can delete the class as well if you just want to get rid of it altogether. Currently, notice I have no students in this class. And I want you to notice this iPad over here on the left. It has both the wireless and Bluetooth are enabled. And you can see that's turned on up there at the top. And when I go to add students, because this has been set up with Bluetooth and wireless, and it has the latest operating system, either version 10 or 11, so it has to be a newer iPad that can run that. If it's an older, like an iPad 2 or an iPad mini that can't run 10, Apple Classroom unfortunately does not work. But this is running version iOS 11, the newest one out. Notice that when I go to add students, I get this little 4-digit code. Over here on the left, now Classroom showed up. So the student would simply tap on Classroom. They would go in and add their name to it. And first I would select the class. There's my class that I have, I'm trying to invite the student to. They tap on History. They would add their first name and their last name. I've done this before on this device, so my name is already there. I have a 4-digit code over here, so I'm going to add that code, which is 7736. And I simply click on Add, and notice that now over here on the right for the teacher, that device, iPad, has showed up. The other thing you want the students to do is you can leave Join Classes set to automatic, but down below where it says Allow Teacher to, always make sure both of these are set to always, and they're just little check boxes, and you want the students to do that as well. So when you're trying to do things with the class, you don't want them to get prompted every time. Hope that makes sense. And so now I've got that done. On this device here, I can simply click on my home button as a student because I've joined the class. Over here on the right, all the teacher has to do is click Add, and now that student is part of the class. And notice it shows me what that student is currently doing. If I open up my settings on this device, look, it shows me a little thumbnail of what's going on. If I click on my home button back to my desktop, you can see I dropped out of there. If I launch another app, like for instance, my music app, you can see now I'm in music, and maybe I should be and maybe I shouldn't be, but that's kind of cool things you can do on here. And so Some other things I can do with this device, of course, I can add more students at any other time. Up here at the top, I have an add. The same thing, this number will change every time. I could say, hey, students, be checking, go into classroom, under settings, blah, 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 and you can add more students as necessary. So some basic things about getting students in your classroom. So once you have them in your classroom, and keep in mind, what is cool about Apple Classroom, and I think it is really neat, because it works with your wireless and Bluetooth. If this student goes to another classroom, that will actually drop off of your list. It only works within the vicinity of a Bluetooth device. It's going to reach out there 50, 60 feet, something like that. Within a classroom, a little bit, maybe a little bit further than that, but you can't control their devices in other parts of the building, all right? And other teachers can't do that as well. So I think that's a really good feature of Apple Classroom. So they try to keep it more of a local management solution in here. In the way it works. Other things I can do up here at the top, notice I can open. So up here at the top, I'm going to tap on open. And so open means if I have the app the same as the students do, I can drive them to an app very easily. And notice at the bottom, I can also lock them into the app as well. So I can slide that radio button if I want to as well. So I'm just going to tap on the camera and notice this iPad on the left, which is a student one, has just launched the camera app. And if I'm done, I simply click on done, but very quickly I can get students all to the same app very easily. So that's another cool feature on there. Another thing, navigate up here at the top. Navigate means I can send them to specific sites, or if I use iBooks, I could maybe get them to an iBook, iTunes U. The one you're probably going to use the most, depending if you don't use the other two apps, is Safari, because Safari is the web browser on the iPad. So I could go and I could navigate them to Safari. So I could go in here. I've got some sites that I've already bookmarked in here. So I could go into Apple, for instance, and look for a site. Let me see, iPotter.com. I don't know if that's even a good site anymore. We'll see. Nope, hadn't been used before. Let me go back and see if I can find another one. I'm going to my APD here. Let's go down here. Let me drop back out one more time. APD Social Studies, Docs Teach. There we go. There's a little history site. So I'm going to launch you into a little Docs Teach site for history. So any of the sites that I have bookmarked on my device, very quickly I can get you to that on your device as well. And so that's kind of cool how you can get students where you want very quickly. So that's another feature on there. Of course, I can lock the devices. So if the student isn't paying attention, I can do that as well. To unlock, I simply tap and I can unlock that device as well. And so any of the students that are in this group, notice this little triangle up here that's pointing up, that's the ones I'm going to be dealing with. Keep in mind that I can also, let me unlock this device real quick that's falling asleep on me. I can also create groups. So up here, so I could create a group like I'll call it the Redbirds group. And so then I could just tap on those students that I want to put in that group. So I could be doing some of these things instead of to all the devices in my classroom. I could start doing it with just a group of devices as well. And you can create multiple groups in there and add devices that way as well. So that's another feature that you can do. Also, if I tap on this icon at the top for screens, now I get little thumbnails and I can actually see what that device is doing as they navigate and are opening up different things on the iPad. So there was Safari, I just opened up Maps, and you can see the little thumbnail that starts to show up and tells me different things that are going on there as well. Other things I can do in here, if I tap on this individual iPad itself, I'm going to tap on it. Let me click done here. Nope. I want to tap on this. Oh, I get out of the group, I'm sorry. And I'm going to tap on that one there. And then under that, I have actions. These are other things I can do with that individual iPad. And so where I could do that with an entire group, if I tap on any individual iPad, then I can open, and again, I could just navigate a single iPad to an app, navigate, lock, mute, AirPlay, which means I could send that device up to an Apple TV if you happen to have that in your classroom. So you could AirPlay their device up to the front a variety of reasons why you might want to do that. And I also can just view the screen for that device as well. And so if I go to view the screen, notice I'm seeing the screen just for this one device. And so I can click done, I can drop back out. So those are all the actions you can do with an individual device. So all I did again is I tapped on the one device and I get these action items, tap off of it, and I'm back out of there. A couple other features I wanted to show you that I think are pretty powerful on here as well. So I'm going to click on my home button on my student. So I'm back to the desktop. I'm going to click on my home button here, so it's at the top on my teacher iPad. I'm going to go launch notes. And I've typed up a little note here. Here's some questions on the Civil War. And I want the students to answer these questions and maybe even create a little video. Keep in mind with notes, they could even embed that video into their notes, which is really powerful how notes has really changed a lot on the iPad. And I have this little share sheet up here at the top. So this is my teacher iPad. I go to share sheet up here. Now because I have Apple Classroom, I've created classes, and notice my classes that I have open right now start to show up. I have history open. There's history. And if I tap on history, all the students that are part of that group are going to get sent this note. Over here on the student, you can see they have the option because of AirDrop to accept that. When they do that, now it's thrown that note into their device. They can tap on it. Here it is. They could answer those questions. They could even record the video. I could go to the plus and record the video. I go into my camera if I wanted to add some stuff in there. I've got my photo library, some new features on 11. You can even scan documents and other things you can do in there. But you got some capabilities in there as well. But the students could answer these questions very easily, go research it, find the answers, and then when they're done, of course, they could AirDrop that back to the teacher or print, or a variety of ways that they have on that device. So not only does that work in Notes, but it works in other apps like Pages or Keynote or Numbers, just a variety of ways that I could get students to information really quickly that I want them to have access to. So that's another really, really powerful feature that's built into Apple Classroom once you get your classroom up and going. So keep in mind that Apple Classroom, once you set up a class, the students are in there, it's a one-time setup. If a student removes themselves from a class, you'll see it because they won't show up. So really quickly, you'll know that that's going on. When you're done, obviously, as I talked about before, you can end a class, and I could go in and open up another class, and you're off and going. So Apple Classroom has a lot of really powerful features. Apple has done a really nice job to keep this very simple and compact and not really muddy it up with a lot of other things. So I really like Apple Classroom 2.0, and I hope you do as well. So enjoy.